Episode 1 of Euphoria Season 3 starts with us 5 years in the future, somewhere in Mexico. Rue hasn't been up to anything good since high school, hanging out below the border and ferrying drugs up into California to repay her debts. For now, she makes it through Texas and onto her farm, where Rue dons the alias Ruby and pretends to be a college reporter. The family there are God-loving and very kind, with their oldest, Daisy, offering Rue a lift to the bus depot, where she eventually ends up in California. It takes around 11 minutes into the episode before we finally learn more about what's going on. You see, a few years after high school, Rue was working in a smoke shop and was approached by Laurie. Rue owes Laurie a lot of money after the fiasco with the suitcase and the pills in Season 2. The debt was initially $10,000, but at a 20% monthly interest rate and a fair amount of time having passed, she now owes around $43 million. Rue has no choice but to become a drug mule to repay Laurie, who agrees to settle for only $100,000. Part of the ferrying process includes swallowing ballooned baggies full of drugs and forcing them down her throat. This is a process called body packing, and the dangers are very real. If a balloon breaks inside her, she's likely to die. Rue isn't alone while she's doing this though, as she decides to bring Faye on board to help too. It's not a pretty sight, but this is how fentanyl is smuggled into the US. After Fezco's house got raided last season, resulting in Ash being killed of course, Laurie went into business with her cousin Harley and his son Wayne. It's a tight-knit operation, and across the span of 2 years, Rue has done over a dozen runs and become the #1 mule. In between runs, Rue also drives for Uber, making extra cash. Sometimes during all this craziness, Lexi lets Rue sleep on her couch, but this time Lexi ends up lecturing her about how Christians are judgmental. Rue is caught up on this though and speaks to Ali, asking him about the Bible and religion in general. She's searching for happiness of course, and believes this may be the way to find it. There are excerpts there about homosexuality that Rue questions, but Ali tells her it's very simple. She's either into faith or she's not. Rue decides to read every word as absolute fact. Rue's got plenty of time to do this of course while she's driving around as a mule and as an Uber driver, so she begins with the audiobooks from Genesis and works her way through. Now Lexi isn't talking to Fezco and has been avoiding him for a while now. After the raid, Fezco has been behind bars and serving a 30-year sentence. That's worlds away from Lexi's job, where she works on a soap in Hollywood. While she's happy to be with all the Hollywood creatives, Cassie has a very different direction that she's travelling. She's settled down for a traditional suburban life, but she's desperate to use her body to become TikTok famous. She dresses herself up as a dog and tries to create content. They have a housekeeper called Joanna helping her out as a videographer, but Nate, whom Cassie is still with, is not happy. He accuses Cassie of being a prostitute and tells her that he's busy out in the real world while she's playing dress up. Nate is moving up in the world, pointing out that he's got more than enough money to support them both. At least that's what he says to her. Nate has taken over his dad's business, but it's hard to build in Southern California. It's not an easy gig, and between this and Cassie's insatiable desire for a big wedding, there's a lot going on. Cassie wants to branch out to OnlyFans and start selling content to desperate men. She's pretty confident it'll work, especially as she's not going full on with the porn, but how Nate will react to this is another matter altogether. Maddie meanwhile is currently working in management, representing influencers and a few actors including a guy called Dylan Reed. Dylan is a heartthrob of a show called LA Nights, and he takes a shining to Lexi when she offers some creative direction around his character. Back with Rue, she's called out to see Laurie. There's a big buyer called Alamo Brown, whom Rue needs to drop a package off to. When Rue asks to use his bathroom, she heads up the stairs and becomes enamoured by the numerous gorgeous ladies there, deciding to get involved and dance with them. That's the wrong move, as Rue is confronted by Alamo himself, who calls her disrespectful. However, the pair seem to get along quite well after that initial interaction, with Alamo admitting he's in the business of cashing in on girls. Alamo owns and runs 5 of the dirtiest strip clubs in California, and when Rue hears this, she wants to get involved and be hired by him to come work in the club. He seems to be okay with it, but there's still Bishop, Alamo's right-hand man, to contend with. He's less than enthused about the idea. That night, Cassie broaches the idea of OnlyFans with Nate. He immediately thinks it's porn and doesn't want her selling her body. Cassie though is having none of that and tells Nate matter-of-factly that she doesn't want a ghetto wedding. Eventually, Cassie convinces him to let her pursue this. Meanwhile, one of the girls at Alamo's, Tish, ends up overdosing. It turns out the drugs Rue brought over from Laurie have been laced with fent. Alamo immediately goes after Rue, questioning just what she's doing. Rue tries to talk herself out of trouble, explaining what she's been up to and wanting to help him. Alamo decides to put her faith in God to the test, taking her outside and putting a green apple on her head. He shoots the apple and not Rue, who breathes a sigh of relief, bringing episode 1 to a close. Far away from the woes of high school, Euphoria picks up in the aftermath of everything that's happened, with Rue forced into being a drug mule. This angle kind of makes sense given the fallout from Laurie and the suitcase, but it's surely only a matter of time before Rue meets a sticky end. So far, Lady Luck has been shining on Rue, especially after staying clean and surviving that blow at the end. We don't see Gia, Jules or Fezco, the latter obvious after the actor tragically passed away, but similarly we don't see an awful lot of Maddie here either. Lexi's character is the most similar to her high school counterpart, while Nate and Cassie's relationship feels designed to play out as a caricature of suburban life, which this show is not shy about calling out. Of course, that also extends to mocking fun at religion too, with the show taking numerous punches at Christianity. Nate's character has also softened a lot from his villain persona across the first 2 seasons. Seeing him happy to be subservient to Cassie feels a little out of character for him, and given he's been through far worse with Maddie, I'm loath to believe he'd cave so quickly with Cassie without a big argument or at least some fireworks. The opening to the episode is also quite indulgent too, with the extended 10-minute car scene completely blasé and not particularly engrossing. It's not a deal breaker of course, but it does make for a slower episode overall. With all that in mind, Euphoria is a bit of a mixed bag with this opening. It's certainly not a bad watch, but similarly it's a far cry from the dizzying heights of season 1 too. Hopefully next week's chapter can pick things up a bit. Thanks for watching, and do let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Smash a like or subscribe to the channel, your support is very much appreciated. I'm Greg Wheeler, and from all of us over here at The Review Geek, we'll see you on the next video.